Hello, hello. Welcome to the 17th episode of the Veggies Abroad Vegan Travel Podcast with the Chief Veggie Pusher, myself, Rebecca Gady Swicky. Some of you may already be familiar with Veggies Abroad, but for those of you who aren't, we're a full-service vegan travel company that offers custom planning services, small group trips, a helpful blog chock full of just about everything a vegan or veg-curious traveler could possibly need, and also this podcast. With this podcast, I hope to bring you guys the inside scoop on what vegan-friendly, and eco-friendly businesses are doing in the wide world of travel. Plus, I'll give you the full download of what's going on behind the scenes at Veggies Abroad. So first, I hope that my voice is stays stable for this introduction. I have actually been sick this entire week with the world's worst cold. I actually cannot remember having a cold maybe this terrible since college. It has just, it took over my entire head. And I'm obviously better now, but I still sound kind of rough. So bear with me. It's only for a little bit. And hopefully I don't sound as bad as I think I sound. And I was actually hoping to record this while I'm in South Africa next week. Great timing for getting a cold, right? But it just unfortunately is not going to work out with my schedule. But I will be doing an episode all about the trip once I return at the beginning of July. So make sure you keep your ears tuned for that. And if you're curious about visiting the country, vegan options, want to see, do, etc., you'll definitely want to listen. And a great way to make sure that you don't miss the episode, hit that follow button. Every time a new episode drops, you'll be notified of the new episode, obviously. It's super helpful. I think all of the podcast platforms have them, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen. So check that out. On a positive news front, with just 16 episodes that we've had recorded thus far, we've hit a really awesome milestone. This podcast has been downloaded almost 1,100 times. That is no small undertaking. So thank you to all of you who are listening, especially if you've shared it or left a review. It can really make a difference. And one more positive bit of news, 2 of our 2025 tours have been confirmed. So if you were on the waiting list, then you should have received the info for it. If you didn't, let me know, shoot me an email. All of the rest of you will get to learn about these 2 trips at the beginning of July. I am hoping to have 2 more trips confirmed this summer. So if you want to be the first to know about those, also send me an email. A few of you have reached out a couple of times to ask about the trips because I've been teasing them for a while. Truth be told, they should have been confirmed a while ago, but we've had countless issues with quite a few hotels. I was just emailing a reporter a little bit about this. Post-pandemic, customer service has changed immensely in the tourism industry. Many destinations that have large volumes of visitors have gotten to the point where they're limiting or not even responding to special requests. Some of it is staffing issues, but some of it is also they know that right behind me or any other special request are 10 other clients without request and a credit card in hand waiting to buy. It is challenging to say the least. There were multiple times that I thought, I am never going to get out of this problem loop. Thankfully we did. And thank you to all of you who patiently waited. So today's episode was inspired a bit by all of you. I get a lot of questions about itineraries and which cities to prioritize, or does visiting one city over another city make sense? As I was working through one such itinerary, I saw my lovely friend, Maggie Ortlieb from VegOut magazine, was on her own multi-city European tour, which featured a few popular spots and a few lesser visited ones, perfect for all of you listening. On a fun note, I met Maggie when I first started Veggies Abroad, like when it was an itty bitty baby veggie, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Seriously, no idea. There was no plan. Some of you might know this, but the entire company originally started just as a blog, and I had zero intention of making it into a business. I wanted to use it to help pivot my career, but the universe had other intentions. So when I first started, I reached out to a ton ton of places to pitch writing for them, as it's really important to build your credibility. But when I first started pitching, the pitches weren't very good. Honestly, I'm a little embarrassed thinking about some of them. You live and you learn, I guess, right? I actually pitched VegOut twice. The first one was crap, and the second one was much better, and I actually got a response from it. At the time, Maggie's mom was the editor, and she was super fabulous to work with. I remember the first time that she sent a draft back to me, it was covered in red. Like, it kind of looked like it went to war. And she said something along the lines of, I stopped at X point, read my edits, and use them to improve the rest. When I read that, I thought, oh my God, she regrets taking this pitch. She is never going to accept anything again from me. This was terrible. I'm terrible. And I think I said something along those lines to her, and she was like, oh no, don't worry about this. This is pretty normal. We'll get through it. After that, she really helped me fine-tune my writing skills. So if you've ever enjoyed reading anything on my site, Maggie's mom has a little bit to do with it. So a little bit more about today's fabulous guest. Maggie started VegOut magazine in 2016 to show her veg-curious friends all of the delicious vegan options that they could enjoy while dining out. Originally from Kalamazoo, Michigan, she now resides in Los Angeles and is perfectly happy never scraping ice off of her windshield ever again. She really needs to rub that part in, doesn't she? She graduated with a degree in creative advertising from Michigan State University, go green, and worked in a variety of industries, including nonprofit, hospitality, staffing, and financial services before founding VegOut. In her free time, she enjoys traveling and eating all of the vegan food, hiking, and spending time with family and friends. Let's get over to my chat with Maggie. Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. Always good to see you as well, fellow Michigander. Yes. So before we start with your whirlwind itinerary through Europe, let's talk a little bit about VegOut in case there is anybody who is listening that is not familiar with the magazine. Can you share a little bit about the magazine and what potential readers might be able to find?
Yeah, definitely. So VegOut started, I founded the company 8 years ago now. It has kind of gone through quite a bit of transformation over the years. What started as a blog and Instagram page turned into a nationwide media company with a full-on print magazine. We were publishing quarterly. And since we've gone fully digital, so we have our website, vegoutmag.com, where you can find daily content. We publish, the bread and butter of our content is food, drink, restaurants, things you can get at the grocery store, all plant-based, of course, with a focus on sustainability as a secondary. And we also still do cover like fashion, things like that, but we're really trying to hone in on our food content, bring it back to like the reason we started. I feel like that's what people come to us for, dining recommendations and things like that.
That's awesome. And you originally, correct me if I'm wrong, you started VegOut because people were interested in what you were eating in LA. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was out here. I'd moved out from Michigan, was working at my corporate job, and I realized there was so much disconnect. Like my friends out here didn't realize you could eat really delicious vegan food. You could find burgers, you could find pizza, you could find literally whatever. Mm-hmm. Veganism in LA was so much better than it was in the Midwest at the time. Yeah. And so I was just really excited about it personally and started taking pictures, started blogging about it. And that's how it started. So it wasn't really, I didn't set out to start a company. It was more just a passion project on the side.
That's really amazing. At what point, and I promise we'll get to your itinerary, did you, this is also very interesting. At what point did it move from a passion project to an actual business?
Yeah, about 3 years in is when I quit my full-time job. And that's when I realized, maybe I can monetize this. That was never really the objective, but I started realizing, okay, maybe like monetizing it isn't so bad because then I can focus more time on it and more of my energy. Sure. So I just took the leap, went full-time, VegOut, left the marketing job at the accounting firm and never looked back.
That's really amazing. I mean, congratulations. And then 8 years later, it is thriving and doing great things and showing people not just what's going on in LA, but around the world.
Yes. Yes. We've expanded quite a bit since the inception.
Yeah, that's awesome. So maybe some of your expansion will be inspired by your recent itinerary through Europe. You had quite a whirlwind trip, a month in London, then multiple stops in Italy, specifically Pisa, Florence, San Gimignano, Follonica, Rome, and then finally ending in Rhodes, Greece. Was there something specific that inspired this itinerary?
A few things. So one, I had spent a couple weeks in London last September. My sister moved there for grad school, so she's been there for, I don't know, quite a few months now and loves it. I don't think she wants to come back to the US. And I also love London. I mean, it is one of the vegan capitals of the world.
Yeah,
they
it
have
absolutely is.
such amazing restaurants, and the culture there's incredible for as far as veganism goes. And then, so I was like, well, my first thought was I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm just kind of like spontaneous in nature, love to travel in
Throwing
general.
that out there.
Yeah, just throwing it out there. So that's always how I'm like, oh, I want to go there, and then I go there, and I've done a lot of solo travel in the past. And so I was like, you know what? I need a change of scenery. Well, first I was like, I'm going to move to London. And then I was like, that's a little dramatic. Like, let's just try a few months first. So I decided I'll do 1 month in London. My dad was going to come stay with me for the first part. My mom wanted to come stay for the second part. And so we just rented a place there. And then my mom also had just watched Under the Tuscan Sun and felt very inspired to go to Italy. And so I had been before. I actually was an au pair there many years ago, like 11 years ago. So I'd been to most of these cities before in Italy, but my mom hadn't. And so I wanted to show her around and kind of show her like what I had done when I was younger. And then neither of us had been to Greece. My sister hadn't been to Greece either. So the three of us went to Greece together, and that was awesome because that was something.
That's awesome that they got to tag along through part of it. That was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was solo for like a couple weeks in London, but then the rest was like with family.
Okay. And so are you going to be moving to London anytime soon?
You know, I go back and forth. I don't know if I can do the London winters. I mean, if you can do Michigan winters, like I grew up in Michigan.
I was going to say, yeah.
London winters, but I've just been in LA too long that I don't think I can go back to that weather.
I mean, I think that's fair. That is fair for sure. So then did you have a favorite stop on this itinerary?
Yeah. Well, that's hard because they're each so different, but I think the highlight for me, which I was actually initially not expecting it to be, was the sustainable vegan farmhouse in Tuscany that I stayed at. It was incredible. And why I say I wasn't expecting to enjoy it so much is because when we got there, like they're incredibly nice and accommodating, hospitable, but they said there was no Wi-Fi in the rooms, and I am definitely workaholic, so I kind of freaked out and was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do?" But it actually ended up being a really nice like digital detox and just like reset for me.
Oh, that's really nice. I actually I had forgotten that about I Panini. That for people listening, you're talking about a place in Tuscany called Agravia I Panini. It's a quite lovely place. And I had forgotten that about the Wi-Fi as well. And I've sent multiple clients there. And the last ones, I thought after like they were on their way, I was like, I didn't tell them about the Wi-Fi because they're just gonna find out when they get there.
I have it like in common areas, but like definitely not like strong in some of the areas or in the rooms. But yeah, it's one of those things that at first I was like, oh my gosh, and then I'm like, okay, like this is actually really nice, like just relaxing.
Yeah, I look forward to that, to be completely disconnected and what that would be like. So good for you. That's wonderful. What did you do anything when you were in the area there? So I Panini is near San Gimignano. Did you spend a lot of time in that area?
Yeah. So maybe should I start from the beginning of the itinerary? That might be
sure.
Yeah. Or at least for Italy, and then we can go back to London.
Sure.
But so Italy, the whole point of going to Italy was to go to I Panini, which you said is in San Gimignano. I always mess that up. But we started in Pisa. So we flew into Pisa from London. And Pisa's what you expect. It's a little touristy town. We went to the Leaning Tower. You have to see that. My mom had researched that. She was like, oh, this is actually just like bad construction that turned into this like landmark. I was like, I never knew that. But anyway, they have like one fully vegan kind of takeout spot, and they have a couple like other little spots, but we actually just found a sit-down restaurant that had nice like whole food plant-based vegan options, which was a good surprise. It wasn't like the best food, but it was, you know, it was just like
it was right in Pisa.
It was right in Pisa, and it was like
okay,
yeah, and it was like okay, like we had been eating a lot of like burgers and stuff in London, so it was like okay, this is nice, like change, lots of vegetables. And then so Pisa was only like a quick stopover, and then we took the train to Florence. Florence is like beautiful as one can expect. We did like the Rose Garden and the hike and all of that. And there was this really amazing falafel spot called Santo Falafel. And I don't know if you've been, but it was really good. All vegan. They have like baklava and everything. So good.
Yes. It's right across the street from a place called Ra Firenze, which is also really good. And I wasn't able to eat at both. So I remember taking a picture of it now that you say that. But yeah, it looks so cute.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just like a, you know, order at the counter, like, yeah. And it was super good. And then, but we weren't in Florence too long. So then we went to, we took a train down, to San Gimignano. And, yeah, so when we were staying at Ipini, we were there like 3 nights, I believe. And they do all of the meals at the hotel. You've stayed there, right?
I actually have not been there. I've sent many people there. I'm working on a small group tour to go there. Okay, and that will finally be me going there.
Okay, yeah, you've got to go. You've got to go. And so, yeah, so we took the train, and then the train doesn't stop like right in the town. So you have to get like a transfer or rent a car or whatever. And so they picked us up. Actually, funny story is they had set up a transfer at the train station, and the wrong person, like the wrong people got in. And so like, never showed up. And then they called us and they were like, oh yeah, he picked up like the wrong people. And we were like, okay. But it was just funny. And,
did you end up waiting there for a while?
Yeah, we waited for like an hour or something, but it was fine. We were like, what happened? But no, the actual hotel, like it's beautiful. I think there's like 11 rooms. It feels like you're just staying on someone's farm property. I mean, I think it's like 84 acres or something. It's something huge like that.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
They have vineyards, they have olive groves, they have vegetable garden, herb garden. The family who owns it lives on site. So they have their house there with their 2 little kids. And it's just like its own little ecosystem. Everything is like, either they grow it or they source it locally. They partnered with a friend to make their own soaps.
There's a vineyard there too, right?
So there's a vineyard and olive grove. So they make their own wine. They make their own olive oil. Like everything is just super sustainable, super local. It's like its own little blue zone is what my mom and I were saying. It's kind of crazy.
Oh, how nice. Yeah.
And they just have this philosophy of like, you walk in and you don't see like branding everywhere or plastic everywhere, which you're used to in like hotels in the US. I feel like it's just like, okay, branding. It's very like aesthetically pleasing and minimalist design. But so they do breakfast. You can do half board. So they do the breakfast and the dinner every night. But then during the day we would walk into town or like sit by the pool or whatever. But the little town, San Gimignano, it's like a 20-minute walk. You have to walk 20 minutes, but it's like down a big hill and then up like a really steep hill, which is a good workout. Okay. But it's the cutest like fortress, old medieval town, just beautiful. And we were able to find, a little coffee shop that had cornetti, which is like the Italian version.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, there were like a few vegan options in the town, but it was definitely like a very meat heavy little town, which is why it is so cool that this vegan oasis exists right next to it.
Did the owners have any Any recommendations of places in town that you guys could go to, or did they have like an inn on any of it?
Not really, but so what was cool about ePeony is like when we got there, we started just meeting other, it was very communal, but not forced. We just started kind of meeting the other guests because it was small enough.
Sure.
And so there was this woman and her husband when we checked in, and she just gave us, she was originally from the US, but had been living in Italy for like a few years. And she was just giving us recommendations on everything from like Rome to
wow.
So it was like we had so many recommendations. It was amazing. And then we would talk to other people and say, oh, we heard this and that. So it was like a very communal vibe, which I really liked. We met a lot of cool people, other vegans traveling, lots of honeymooners. Yeah.
That's really nice. I always really love it with places like that because generally speaking, like you're brought together for similar, purposes or kind of like-minded or open to that. I've talked to a lot of vegan hotels that actually get a lot of non-vegans as well, but they're open to it. They're not against it. And so it like makes for a really great conversation. It's a much different experience than just staying at some random chain where you really want to check in, you really need to get on the Wi-Fi, and you really want to be left the hell alone.
Yeah. No, actually, quite a few guests we talked to, like they had planned to just come, stay at the hotel, and then like do other things like around the area. And a lot of them had just ended up staying and spending time at the hotel because it was so nice. I mean, it's just beautiful. Yeah.
That's really awesome. That sounds like a really fabulous place for sure. What was the food like?
So the food, it was delicious, but it was all very much whole food focused, all gluten-free, local, like a lot of it, you just like saw the employees picking like herbs and things around the property for dinner that night. And so the chefs would cook very much based on what they had in season and what supplies they had. And they would curate the menu that way. So I felt so healthy. Like that is like how I would aspire to eat like that every day. Like that would be incredible if I had someone cook for me like that. Cause it was just, yeah. So the breakfast it was always like a bowl of porridge and then a plate with like a bunch of little dishes. So there's like a little salad, like a muffin or something, lots of different things. And then dinner was a coursed meal. So you started with a little bread basket, had the different courses. It was mostly Italian focused food, but they would like mix it. We had like some Japanese inspired food at some point. So they had like some different cuisines, but it was mostly like the Italian food, which I really liked. And then at the end, they would give you like an herbal infusion. So it was just like herbs from their garden and something to kind of like end the meal. It was all really like nice and felt very healing, like all of the food. We did the Olive Grove picnic as well, which is like an optional add-on. Mm-hmm. And I think that was some of the best food. Like that, I would highly recommend if anyone goes there to do the picnic because you're out in the Olive Grove. It's beautiful. And then they just like, it was kind of funny because the waiters would just like, they'd like hike through the Olive Garden or Olive Grove. We felt a little bad. We would just like see them like coming through, but they were the whole staff was amazing, and the food, yeah, it was like little like just little like bites, like homemade vegan cheeses and things. I mean, everything was incredible. I couldn't name like one dish that I was like that was the best, but it was just like everything you ate was it felt
it's terrific. Yeah,
very fresh. Yeah.
That was a really nice experience. That's not something you would get at many places for sure, especially the picnic. I saw your pictures of that and thought, oh, that is super, super nice. And I think actually you got really lucky because you had some really great weather while you were there as well too. And then it switched shortly thereafter.
Yeah, no, it was like really nice when we were there. And then when we went to Rome, we went to the Colosseum and it was like torrential downpour. Like it was thunderstorming. Yeah.
Oh no.
But we had like gotten nice weather in Tuscany, which was great.
So from Tuscany, then did you head to Rome next?
So we headed to Rome, but we made a pit stop in Follonica, which is the little seaside town that I was an au pair in 11 years ago. Uh-huh. So I met back up with my host mom, and that was like incredible because I hadn't seen her in so long. And Follonica doesn't have like Floronica's not super trafficked by like American tourists. It's very much like local tourists. And so they don't have like, not a ton of people speak English and not a ton of vegan options necessarily, but they do. One thing about Italy, and this was true like back 11 years ago, is even the towns that aren't like vegan friendly as far as like restaurants go, they always have, even like just the fast casual places have like red pizza or something like that that you can find. So it's just vegan by default.
You have to like adjust your expectations.
Yeah.
I mean, and
that's not different than like small towns here. It's just a small, you know.
For sure.
So we found stuff to eat. Nothing like notable, I guess, but it was just, honestly, I highly recommend like people make a stop like that when they're, because everyone goes to like Florence, Rome, the big cities, and those are great. But the small towns are, I don't know. I think they're super charming and like you get a whole different experience. It's a lot cheaper. You can get like a place like really inexpensively. We stayed at just like a lovely little kind of B&B and super close to the ocean. I mean, it was amazing, but we were only there for a night. And then we did find cornetti though. So
that seems to be an Italian theme.
That was the theme. My mom was like looking for the cornetti in every city. So we were able to find, even at the airport, it's like everywhere. There was like one vegan pastry in every case.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then we went to Rome. Yeah.
Okay. And one last thing with Salonika, it's a little beach town. And so there's like the beach is public too, right?
Yeah. So they have like public beaches, and then they have like the beaches that you can be like a member of or like rent out like a cabana or whatever. But yeah, there are sections that are just like public.
Yeah. And it's not, what is it? It's like 3 hours from Florence. So it's not crazy by train.
It's actually closer. I think if you get a super direct train, it's only like an hour. I think ours was like an hour and a half or something. Yeah.
From Florence. Gosh. Yeah. That's terrific. And so it's a really nice, because people are always like, they think about the Amalfi Coast or the Cinque Terre. And they're further and far more touristed. So this would be a really nice, like a quieter, beachy Italian getaway.
I almost don't want to tell people about it because it's like my spot. But no, it's no, I feel like we see these spots like popping up that become very popular with American tourists, and it's like they get over. That's how Dubrovnik was when I was there a few years ago. It was just like over touristy. That's how Tulum became in Mexico. And they're still wonderful places to visit, but they just are like over trafficked. And I prefer a little quieter beach vacation. So yeah, I really enjoy like the Floronico area. And there's some other beaches like around there and other little towns around there. I would say Floronico is more modern for the Tuscany area as far as like the architecture. It's not like super like it's not what you think of when you think of like Tuscany. They have newer buildings and things like that, but if you drive, there are lots of like little towns around there that are that like Tuscany vibe that you think of.
That's awesome. That sounds really, really lovely and a nice like in between place. And you're totally right. I think, and we could totally go on a total tangent about this, but social media has added to, the over touristing of so many cities. And I mean, Venice is another one that really it's a Disney World for visitors. It's so hard for people to live in these places now. And that's becoming really sad to witness that.
And the environmental like impact as well. And like it's like people can't like the economy and stuff. It's just, it's not super sustainable for like, and then it's like, what happens when people kind of leave that one and go to the next one? It's just, they're left in.
Yeah. Right. Right. It falls apart for sure. Yeah. It is sad. So from Floronico, you went to Rome.
Yes.
And you got rained on in the Colosseum.
No, it was storming when we got in. But we stayed at Citizen M Hotel. And so it's not a vegan hotel, but the one in Rome is actually fully electric. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's one of their newer properties. And Citizen M as a company is like really committed to like their sustainability. And so, so that was cool to just like stay in a, I guess, sustainable electric hotel. And then
they have some vegan options on their breakfast menu, or like they have a breakfast buffet, right?
Yeah. So we had breakfast at the hotel and we were able to eat. Everything's like clearly labeled and we were able to find. Yeah. So it's just like a buffet and it's clearly labeled, which is nice.
Yeah, that is really nice.
Yeah. And then they make you coffee too. So that was like, I had to, I had to make sure I had coffee every morning. So and they had oat milk and everything. So it was a good place to stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, so we went to the Coliseum the first day and it was just like downpouring, but we had to do it and it was still a good time. And we ate the two places that like really stand out in Rome as far as food goes. Buddy Veggie. I don't know if you've been.
People love that place. I did not make it there when I was last there, but everybody I talk to always brings that place up.
Yeah, we went twice because we just liked it. And we went twice.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
it's a pizza place, right? Pizza and pasta.
Yeah, pizza and pasta, and then and what is it called? I wrote it down because I knew I wasn't going to be able to remember the name of it. But it's the gelato place that is like, I would go back to Rome just for the gelato. Like, Rome is not my favorite destination.
Yeah,
I like it. It's nice. It's great to visit. Yeah. But I feel like when I do it once, like I don't need to go back. But this gelato place is so good. It's Grezzo raw chocolate.
Yes,
it's incredible.
Yes, that is really incredible. And actually, a side note to that, there is a cafe that's kind of similar to it in Florence. I think it's called Cortese. Did you visit that when you were in Florence? And they have like similar kind of ethos. Lots of things are like raw. They do little pastries and things. It's gorgeous. I would go back there just for the chocolate and the gelato.
Yeah, this gelato, because I was like trying to find a good, not like super, super sugary gelato that was vegan. Because there's like a lot of the vegan gelato options in Italy are like, they're okay. But this spot is like very natural. Like the pistachio is not like the vibrant green that you see at most places. It was so good. And all vegan, which was amazing. So
yeah, that is really amazing. They do handmade chocolates and things too, aside from the gelato, right?
They do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, that is really awesome. There is another place in Rome that I really love. It's called, I'm going to probably butcher this, and I'm so sorry to this place, Refugio Romano, or I know the first part of the name is Refugio, Rifugio. Did you make it there? I specifically really like this place because when I was there, they just had like a very big vegan menu. And we happened to find it just like because they had a sign out front that said vegan options. And I was like, okay. And it was kind of like off the beaten path. And we were hungry. So I was like, fine, let's just go in there. And the staff were so lovely. And she was like, did you find us on Happy Cow? I was like, no, I didn't. I found you because of your street sign. But since that time, the entire restaurant has gone completely vegan. It was like maybe 3 years ago, they made the entire switch.
I wonder if that was the spot we maybe were going to go to for dinner one night, but we were so full that we canceled our dinner. But I think it's not too far from Buddy Veggie if it's the spot I'm thinking of. But now that you say it's all vegan, it may have been the other spot we were trying to go to.
That is always was like the worst, but also a really nice thing to happen when you're like, I'm so hungry, I'm so full that I don't think I can eat anymore.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to be able to eat dinner. Like it's just we've been eating all day. So
how long were you guys in Rome?
2 or 3 nights. Yeah, 2 or 3 nights.
Okay, so kind of quick. Was there anything else then that you did or you checked out then during that time?
Not really. I mean, we saw like the main like touristy, sightseeing. But no, as far as like restaurants go, just a couple. Had to hit like the main spots I wanted to go to, and then we flew to Greece from Rome,
which was your final stop of this whirlwind tour, and you had you chose really well for your final stop because that also was a highlight with a stay at another vegan hotel.
Yes. Yeah. So Goji Vegan Hotel in Rhodes, Greece. I I had started talking to the owner like before they even opened. I can't remember how I found them, if it was like a Google search or what, but we had started talking. Giannis, the owner, super, super kind person. It's family owned. So like he and his wife live on property with their dog. And then his grandma, his 94-year-old grandma, and mom are like cook everything, and everything's vegan. And so it's you're getting that like very authentic Greek experience, which I was just like in heaven, because I feel like Greek food here, you go to a Greek restaurant here, everything has cheese in it. Like there's not a lot of vegan options. And so, yeah, so all the classic Greek dishes veganized, which was incredible.
Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to Globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gady-Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie pals on escapades to exciting and exotic destinations around the world. Whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat, or staying at a carbon-neutral camp in Kenya during the Great Migration, our adventures are nothing short of spectacular. And guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over, to explore our dazzling lineup of 2024 trips and secure your spot on your next vegan adventure today.
I highly recommend it. I mean, the food is delicious. So if you just, are a little open-minded and like want to try something new that you're not used to eating, I thought it was one of the coolest experiences. And it's super close. So Rhodes is super close to Turkey. So it was really cool. You could just like see Turkey across the ocean there.
And super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was really cool. And like Rhodes also is just a very like, it's a very, again, like back to what we're like Instagram, I feel like has made Mykonos and Santorini really popular, which is great. And there's awesome vegan hotels there that I still need to go to. But Rhodes is kind of more off the beaten path, and people don't really think to go. Well, one, because these places take a long time to get there from the US. But if you're flying from London or from we flew from Rome, it's not super bad. But yeah, it felt like we were just like in a little part of the island. There's a little quaint neighborhood. We could walk to the ocean. There were some cafes and things around, and then we took a taxi into the main city. There's actually like a vegetarian restaurant there that was really good, had a ton of vegan options. But yeah, beautiful island, beautiful culture, and like great experience. And I think for my mom, she was expecting more of like what you see on Instagram, the like Santorini kind of vibe. And I think the other side of the island maybe has more of that aesthetic. But so at first I think she was like, oh, I was thinking Greece was more like this. But the thing about Greece is there's like 200 some islands. So they're all very different.
It's giant.
And so, so I think if someone's going in with that expectation, that's not what you're going to get from Rhodes. But Rhodes, I prefer the very like local experience, like Falonica, like Rhodes, like these places that are less trafficked by tourists. And it was just, I thought it was such a cool experience.
That's awesome. And a really neat thing I read about Goji is that it's not always been a vegan hotel. Didn't the recent owners, I think it's a part of the family, siblings, they took it over and they decided to make this change.
So Giannis, the current owner, his dad had owned the hotel before, and it wasn't vegan. It was just regular like rooms to rent. He actually lived in the US for like a year, I think, going to school, but he lived in London And then his dad was going to just sell the property, or give it to him if he wanted to move back home. So he moved back home to Rhodes and opened a vegan hotel. So they had spent time renovating it, making things sustainable, making everything vegan, which is really cool. So they're Rhodes' first vegan hotel. And yeah, it's a really special place. I highly recommend it. And what else was cool? I mean, the food was definitely the highlight for me, but just the hospitality as well. Like, they're super, super warm, welcoming.
It's a
people.
Greek trait. They really want to make sure that, like, you do not leave unhappy and you do not leave hungry.
Yes. So yeah.
Which is really nice. Were there specific things that they veganized that, like, really stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, there were things that I had never heard of before, which was really cool. But definitely, like, the classics, like the spinach pies, the like eating bread for breakfast. I feel like Americans, like, typically don't do that. And then just these, like, big bread rings with, like, sesame seeds on them. Yes. And I mean, like, that was awesome. Gosh, I took so many food photos. Like, everything was so good. I can't remember the exact names of some of the dishes, but there was one that's like green beans and tomatoes, and it's like a stew.
Yes. I think it begins with a P, and I'm not even going to try and remember the name of that.
Yeah. But it was cool, and it was really good. And it was cool for my sister because she had spent some time in Turkey a few years ago, and she, like, came back raving about the food in Turkey, and a lot of the dishes are, like, similar. So she was in heaven.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really nice because in traditional Greek cuisine, there are quite a few things that are just, like, naturally vegan by default. So that makes some of that, like, if you're going to a smaller island that, you know, you're worried about options, you know, I always tell people, like, don't worry about it because, you know, if you can find a local taverna, they're going to have at least a couple of things that are just naturally vegan. And they didn't create it as the vegan option. It's just that that's what it was. So it makes it really nice. And you get to try something that, you know, I haven't found here often. And I'm sure, you know, that's the same for most people, which is really cool. Is Goji on the beach?
It's not on the beach, but it's in a neighborhood. So it's in, like, a residential neighborhood with, like, apartment buildings and hotels and things like that. And then it's like a 10-minute walk to the beach.
Yeah. Ah, perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. So you get to wake up, you have a lovely breakfast, go for a walk. Sounds like the best place to go. And you went at a really fabulous time. So it was like the shoulder season. The tourism hadn't even officially kicked off in Greece yet. So it was like even more chill, which is a really ideal time to visit the country.
It was nice. Yeah. And like I said, we took the area we were in, it was like kind of like small neighborhood vibes. And then we took a taxi to the main city. I would definitely recommend renting next time if I went, I would rent a car. It's just the taxis it was kind of hectic, and the bus runs, but not, like, super regularly. So you'll be waiting for a while, and if it's full, they'll just keep going. So, anyway, we went to the main part of, like, the main city in Rhodes, and we were able to find, like, really good vegetarian restaurant with vegan options. And then we also rented a just, like, beach chairs at one of the spots. They have a bunch of spots where you can rent beach chairs for the day and order food. And we found a spot that does, like, vegan sushi and things like that. So, I mean, it wasn't anything fancy. It was vegetable rolls, but we found options. So it was pretty easy to find options. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. Really, you know, a really great way to spend your time on Rhodes for sure. I'm going to guess, and I feel this way, so I'm going to guess you probably do too, that going back to a regular hotel after staying at, like, an Ipanini or a Goji is really hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, it definitely,
They like set you up for almost failure because then you just think about them. That's happened to me in so many times, and I had to go back to a regular hotel, and I was like, this is terrible. It's almost like punishment.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I was for sure spoiled at the vegan hotels.
Good, as you should be. And so then you rounded out back to London, right, after that?
Yeah. So I skipped over, like, all the food I ate in London. But yeah, so I was in London for a month, and then I did those travels, Italy, Greece, and then I flew back to London just for a night and then flew back to Los Angeles. Since there's not a direct flight from Rhodes or Athens, or if there was a direct flight, it's like crazy expensive. So it's just a better option to fly back to London and then fly back to the US. And so we stayed one night at the Treehouse Hotel. I don't know if you've been there in London, but it's a sustainable hotel.
About it. Super cool concept.
Really cool concept. It's not 100% vegan, but their restaurant, which is on the roof or on the top floor. Well, they have a restaurant and they have like a bar above it. But the restaurant is super vegan friendly. So they have a full vegan menu.
Awesome.
It's incredible. The food's really good. The cheesy truffle fries were amazing. But it's like mostly Mexican cuisine. So even though like the hotel is not 100% vegan, they have like an emphasis on plant-based.
And the hotel was, what was it? A former like shipping barge. Is that right?
I don't remember. I have stayed in one in London that was a former shipping barge.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, so that's the good hotel in London. I've stayed there, and that's like that was a shipping barge. But I don't know about Treehouse, about their history.
Oh, Treehouse. No, I'm so sorry. Yes, Treehouse. Yes, that is different. The good hotel, right? I don't know why I was immediately thinking of that.
Barge, and that's right on the water, and I've stayed there, and that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really cool that they were able to like make such good reuse of something that was probably going to end up in the landfill or just rot in the Amsterdam port for a number of years to be able to create it into a hotel.
Yeah. But Treehouse is a sister property of one hotel.
Okay.
So one hotel, we have them in New York, and so it's their sister property. And it's just a little different branding. It's super fun. I feel like if you have like kids or like a kid spirit, it's like there's lots of like little games and like things around the room. Like it's a fun place to stay, and it's also sustainable. So.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. Just the aesthetic and the greenery, everything. Is a really, really neat way. That's a really nice way to wrap up your time too, if you're gone. And we did skip over this. London is absolutely a place where you can eat yourself silly, and you can spend a month there and still not get to all of the places. Did you have highlights while you were there?
For sure. And like you said, like I was eating at a different vegan restaurant every single day because there were just so many spots. And my sister is also vegan. She wanted to try a bunch of spots while I was there. But also last trip I was in London, I stayed at Inhabit Hotels, which is one of my favorite hotel chains. Or not even a chain. They have a few locations, but they're awesome. They're like a sustainable brand. I love them. So that's another one to check out. But highlights for food in London. I mean, I think one of the biggest things about London's vegan cuisine in general is just the diversity of types of cuisine. So like we went to an all vegan Thai place that was super good called Molly Vegan Thai or Molly Thai Vegan. And that was like really good. And then we went to a Brazilian vegan spot. It was like a pop-up at a bar, and that was cool because I'd never had Brazilian vegan food before.
And that's not something you think about, veganize. That's so cool.
No, never. And one of my best friends is Brazilian, and like it was so cool, like being able to eat the food that like she grew up eating, And then Dishoom, I feel like that's the one that like everyone talks about when they go to London. They have a good vegan menu. It's not fully vegan. Another Indian restaurant, Om Nom. I love it. They also have like a yoga studio, I think, but just like incredible vegan options. And then what else? Well, What the Pita is like one of our favorites for like just fast casual. I don't know if you've been there, but yeah, super good. But I think the spot that I have this list here, and I'm like, I could just go through all of these because they were all. Purezza. I'm getting overwhelmed by like.
Their pizza.
Purezza's pizza, and then La Fromagerie, the cheese shop, which is incredible. They just moved into Purezza, so now it's like you can check them both out.
That's awesome. Yeah. Is it now that they have 2 locations, or they have moved out of the other location in Shoreditch?
Okay. Yeah, I think they moved Don't quote me on that, but I think so.
Okay.
And then, what was I going to say about, Cafe Van Gogh? Have you been to Cafe Van Gogh?
I'm very familiar with Cafe Van Gogh. I did not make it there the last time. It is an amazing concept.
Yeah, so their concept is incredible. And the food is really good itself, but like beyond the food, they just do so much for the community and giving back and employing people with higher needs, and just like the staff is amazing. So that's a restaurant that I just recommend everyone go to and support if they're in London, because they're just like on a mission to do the most good in the community. Yeah. It's awesome. But that was the thing I found too, is I feel like all of the spots I went, not that people are like not friendly in the US, but I feel like all of the spots I went in London, like everyone was so nice. Like I didn't have a bad experience at any of the spots. Everyone was awesome. So well and nice. So we had a really good time, and we met a lot of the restaurant owners, and yeah, it was awesome.
That's really cool. That's really nice to, be able to have that kind of experience and try all those different things. Did you happen to do like a food tour or anything along those lines?
No. Oh, so we did.
I mean, except the food tour you put yourself on.
Yeah, it was like, so I did a self food tour, but no, so we actually did the tea bus tour. So it's Bridget's Tea Room does a vegan, they do a non-vegan and a vegan one, but it's all on the same bus, and then you just opt for the vegan option beforehand. Highly recommend. We did it for my dad's birthday, and he loved it. They take you around on a double decker, like one of the old red buses that they kind of refurbished inside. They serve tea, and then just like the beautiful like afternoon tea vegan spread with the finger sandwiches and the scones, and I kind of went on like a vegan tea tour. Like I've gone to quite a few afternoon teas now in London, and I wish it was a thing in the US because it's just awesome.
Yeah, it is a really nice occasion to have, and something very different. Did you have to reserve your tea with Bridget's well in advance, or just a couple of days?
It like about a week in advance. Yeah, I'd recommend like a week in advance or more. But you probably can get in a couple days in advance. I don't think they book up, because they do several tours a week. So
okay, that's great. That sounds like a really great quintessential London type activity to take part in. And there are a few other places. I think the Pharmacy is another restaurant that does a full vegan tea, but I have also read that they have like gone back and forth. So I'm not sure if that's consistent. And go ahead.
Oh no, not to cut you off, but yeah, I haven't been to the Pharmacy for their vegan tea, but the Lanesborough Hotel is like the fancy one, which I did last year. And so that's like perfect for like special occasion. Like that's really fancy. But they do a full vegan one. And then this time we went to a couple other hotels, the Athenaeum Hotel, and then Roseate House. And Roseate House is just like beautiful, a cute little like dining room. Feels like you're in like a little den with like a bookshelves and like the old pictures on the wall. And so there quite a few hotels offer vegan afternoon teas.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of uncommon when you go to London and you go somewhere and they don't have vegan options. It's like very strange. I feel the similar way if you've ever been to Brighton, which is south of London, which is kind of like a mini version of London. But still, like if you go into any regular place, they should have a vegan option, because if they don't, that's just like against the entire ethos of the place.
That's what someone just told me about Brighton. I was just talking to someone. Yeah. I haven't been to Brighton. I went to Bristol because one of my best friends lives in Bristol, and they actually also have like quite a few vegan options. But exactly, I think that's why I keep wanting to move to London, because it's so veganism is so normalized there.
Yeah.
You walk into any grocery store, any convenience shop. So, these are the restaurants I ate at, but I also was like going to Tesco and like buying like whatever chocolate they had. I mean, they just have so many options. It's crazy.
Do you feel like that's not the case in LA?
It's interesting because LA and I think New York too are kind of like the vegan capitals of the US. But we need to do better. Like, honestly, we need to do better. It's just not, we are not where Europe is at all. Like, I always think, okay, LA might be 10 years ahead of Michigan, but then I go to London and I'm like, okay, it feels like we're 10 years behind London. Like, what are we doing? So, yeah.
It is definitely different. But you definitely have some options in LA that are really great.
No, we do have we do have like really great options, but I think the difference is the culture. So like, you're not going to go to McDonald's and get a vegan menu.
No, you're not.
In London,
that is for sure.
In London, you go to any fast food restaurant, whatever, there's like a vegan menu, which is so
I think
great.
too, like the Veganuary movement has had a lot of help with kind of pushing a lot of that forward, especially in like the fast casual or fast food industry, with normalizing some of that. And we just haven't really like embraced that as much. I mean, they've tested a lot of that stuff, the KFC stuff, and I don't remember, did McDonald's test
they tested the McPlant, so they'll test things and then they'll take them away.
They take it away. Yeah, right. It's just like, leave it. Like, you left it in London, you left it in Berlin. There's no reason why you can't leave it here as well too. It's frustrating.
But a big part of it is just also like their food laws too. Like, I mean, well, one, like the ethos, like you said, but the policies and the food laws. Like, Europe just doesn't allow a lot of the same ingredients that we allow in our food here. So.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's a whole nother episode as well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Did you face any challenges as a vegan during your itinerary?
Not really. Like,
that's awesome.
I think everywhere, even in the small towns, like even in Follonica, like I said, it wasn't, the huge spread of vegan options, but we could find something in every place we went. It wasn't a struggle. Even the airlines, we flew Aegean airline to Greece. They had a vegan sandwich just like on their cart as a snack. So you didn't even have to pre-order it.
I saw you post that and thought, what? That's amazing. Actually, and a funny side note to that, I had flown Aegean as well, and I didn't have a terrific experience with them. And then I saw your picture, and I like really wanted to hate on Aegean, and I saw that, and I was like, God bless it. No, I can't.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like some airlines too are like kind of inconsistent. Like, I've flown United and had really good experience with the vegan food, and then some other person recently was telling me, oh, United does. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like some of the flights, they just decide we're going to go above and beyond with our vegan options. And then some, they're like, nah.
We're going to sleep. We're going to just call this right in. Yeah, I agree. It can be really hit or miss. And like, it really hit or miss too with like some of the budget airlines too in Europe. Like, I've seen some really great things about like Ryanair, and then I haven't necessarily had that same experience, but maybe they're testing the grounds for future launches, and hopefully they stick around.
Yeah. And I was actually, shout out to Norse Airlines. I actually was impressed because I flew them for the first time. I usually don't fly like budget internationally because I'm like a little skeptical, but it's just, they have direct flights from New York, from LA, probably other cities as well. Super affordable. And so that's what I flew this time. Mm-hmm. And they actually, their vegan options are solid. Like, it's one of those like, it's one of those a la carte, it's kind of like Spirit or something like that, where you pay for just your ticket and then everything else you add on. But if you're going to be on a 10-hour flight, you want to add on the meals. And so you add on the vegan meals, and the vegan meals I thought were they were clearly labeled. I mean, it was like a microwavable meals is what it comes out looking like, but it tasted good. So I was actually impressed that they had something that was,
That's
edible.
Awesome. I had someone else just ask me recently about Norse, and I was like, oh, I don't know. That sounds like you might be in a tin can in the air and maybe you'll get it. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I was like a little nervous, but as long as you go in like knowing that you pay for everything extra. So it's like, I think they might give you water, but it's like, just bring your own snacks. And then if you pay for the vegan meal, like, mine was decent. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's good. Excellent. Good job, Norse. Keep it up. Now other places need to do that as well, too. Are there, so looking back over your itinerary, would you do it the same way again, or would you do it differently?
Well, the only thing differently is I would just add on more time to go to like other Greek islands, or Athens. Like we didn't even really go to Athens. We just had a layover. So yeah, I would probably extend the trip.
Okay.
But no, I mean, all the places I went were amazing. And I think like I like the like longer stays. Like in London, I was really lucky to be able to stay for a month because I could really kind of like immerse myself there. So obviously the more time you have, the better. But yeah, no, I don't think there's anything I would change about it.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah, I think that, that's the case with just about anything. You really get to know the place a little bit more and get to enjoy it even further. Because if you only get a day, somewhere, you don't really get to, and understand it and experience it in the same way as, a month would be like. If someone were to come to you for suggestions on a European getaway, would you suggest that they do something like this, or would you suggest something else?
Yeah, I would suggest, so if you're vegan looking to go to Europe, I would suggest definitely first checking out the vegan hotels, because I think those are very like easy and approachable ways for people to travel, especially, if you're working a corporate job or something and you have a week, 2 weeks for vacation, or you're going on a honeymoon.
Great point.
You're not going to have like the month I had in London, right? So I would look at the vegan hotels first. Definitely recommend Ipini in Tuscany. Definitely recommend Goji in Greece. And then I can't speak for the other ones, but I know they're like incredible. The other ones in Greece. And then Ipini has sister properties in Italy. So different parts of Italy, they have other properties. So look into those first. And then second, just go to London. Like London just had, like, I feel like that's also a super approachable place for first timers because they speak English.
Yeah,
they speak English. Like, the food is like, I mean, it's similar to the US in a lot of ways. So I think it's like, for my dad, he was like very hesitant to do international travel. And then we took him to London a few years ago. And I mean, he loved it. Now he's like going everywhere. But I feel like that is like a good first international trip for people, especially if you're vegan, because it's just so easy.
It's a good gateway city. It just leads to so many other things. That's awesome about your dad. Where did he go after that?
I mean, now he's been going to Mexico with his brother. We did like a whole kind of European tour. Like we went to France, we went to a bunch of places. Then he was back in London this year with me. Now he just wants to go everywhere. So.
Oh, very good. That is a wonderful thing to have happened. Will any of your experiences from this trip influence future VegOut content?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we definitely got content, or I definitely got content when I was over there. But we're trying to incorporate more travel content and more sustainable travel content. I'd like to just do more European content in general and like eating out guides. We've started to do that with London. But I think for now, most of our audience is still in the US. And so just like giving them resources as far as like travel guides and things like that. So
yeah, that's awesome. Always helpful to know where to go and what to find, and really wonderful little spots like you found for sure. And my last question as we wrap up, what is your favorite place to go in the world and why?
In the world?
Or a secondary question, if you don't want that one, is if you could go anywhere right now, where would you go and why?
Honestly, I want to say London. I might be obsessed.
The tourism board needs to hire you.
But I also like have so much love for New Zealand because that was the first place I ever went internationally by myself. And then besides Canada, but and then Mexico City is like so cool and so amazing. So yeah, it's hard to narrow it down, but I don't know. There's just something special that I personally like just really align with London. It's weird because like my mom doesn't really feel that way. She's like, no, I wouldn't move there. But I'm like, if it wasn't rainy and like cold, like I would definitely move there. Yeah.
That's really funny. It's always funny to me, like what resonates with some people and what doesn't resonate with others. Did your mom love Tuscany after all of that?
She loved it. Yeah, she loved it. Yeah, she was like living out her under the Tuscan like sun. She loved it.
Maybe that's where she should move.
Yeah, yeah. No, she loved like just like the slowed down pace and the growing their own food and all of that. But I do think it's a good, like, when I first went to London, like years ago, because I've been several times now, and when I first went, I was only there for like a night or two, and I was like, I don't know. So I think it's a good, like, what you said earlier is like, you could just go a place for a night or two and have a different experience than when you're really like immersed in the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with a city like London. I feel this way about New York City as well. And maybe LA, you know, to another extent. They're very, very large cities, and you can spend a lot of time, you know, just in one neighborhood and, you know, not then experience a whole lot, you know, else. It is a city that you can go back to time and time again and, you know, find new things and have new things to appreciate for sure. So if you don't like a place once, don't give up on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me about your getaway and what's going on at VegOut. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.